Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Today we're on Chapter 15 in my series on the Ladder of Influence, 5 Steps for Climbing to the Next Level and Beyond. And my wife, Ria Story, R-I-A-S-T-O-R-Y, she wrote that book. Highly recommend you get you a copy or check out the online video course, 7.5 hours. You go to bluecollarleadershipacademy.com and look for that course. For only $99, you can go through that 7.5 hour course, get a 30-page downloadable workbook, and when you finish it, you get an official certificate of completion. So that's for those who want to really dive in, and that certificate of completion attached to your resume could easily pay for itself when you're doing an interview, whether you're going for something internally or you're going for something externally. Those types of things, certificates of completion for different types of courses, it proves to people who care that you're focused on personal development, that you're intentional about it. It separates you from the crowd. You can tell them you went through this audio course online, but you ain't got that certificate. You go through the video course, you're going to have a workbook and a certificate. And you can talk about it at a much deeper level because you would have been more intentional about it. So the title of this episode 449, is Saying No Creates the Space to Say Yes. That's the title of my episode that I'm about to talk to you about. Now, the title of chapter 15 in Ria's book is Climbing to the Third Step. And you may remember from the last episode, the third step is competency development. So let's dive into it a little bit. So Ria says you need to learn to say no. Saying no to the wrong things, the unimportant things, the things of lesser value, the things you shouldn't be doing, the things you don't do well, the things you aren't called to do, and the things that are more of a priority for someone else. If you say no to all those things, that's going to give you the space, the time, and the energy to say yes to the right things. And that's the space you want to be in. So kind of to wrap that up in a shorter sentence, saying no to the wrong things creates the space to say yes to the right things. You let someone else control your schedule and you'll find out you're really, really busy doing a lot of stuff that's not going to move you in the right direction. It may move someone else in the right direction, but it may not move you in the right direction. So I remember a long time ago, I heard Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits. I can't remember if I was watching a video or listening to an audio or what, but I know it was him that said it. And he said, how do you say no with a smile? You've got to have a stronger yes burning on the inside. And I know I get requests to do all kinds of stuff. I get so many people reaching out to me who want to collaborate. First of all, most often that means they ain't doing what they want to be doing yet. They look for somebody to help them do it. They want to. Most people who are wanting to collaborate, they want to get on your coattail and leverage your network and your energy and feed off of the discipline you've had to create your space, because they haven't done that for themselves. Now, there are some people, there's some high-impact people who collaborate with other high-impact people. That's a different type of collaboration. They're literally wanting to share networks to introduce each other to each other's network. I don't get those folks reaching out to me. The people I get reaching out to me who want to collaborate, most of them often are either just getting started or either they've been started for a while, but they ain't getting any traction. They ain't making nothing happen. So they're trying to find somebody to help them make something happen. That's two different kinds of collaboration. One thing I've learned about is whenever people reach out to me and want to collaborate, one of the first things I do is I ask them, what's that mean to you? Because I've learned it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So whatever it means to me doesn't mean that's what it means to somebody else. So I usually start out with that question. What does collaboration mean to you? Sometimes it just means they want me to be on their podcast. And if I check them out and they seem like they're pretty cool, I'll join them, be on their pod and be a part of their podcast. A lot of people do that so that they can get me to share my episode with my network so that people learn about their podcast. And I don't mind that. It's a win-win. But a lot of people want to be on my podcast. They just introduce themselves, reach out of nowhere. That's all the first thing contact I ever hear from these people is, I want to be on your podcast. Nope. That's my answer. I say it much nicer than that. A lot of times I don't even give them an answer. I just delete and block the email that it came from. That's where most of them come through email. That's just people wanting to get on my podcast and leverage my network. And I don't reach out and ask other people to be on their podcast. What I just told you that people do to me all the time, I don't do that to other people. I don't go out trying to be on somebody's podcast. If they invite me, they're cool. They seem like they got a good show. I'll participate. It's a win-win. I add value to them, and then I will share the episode. But the reason what I'm talking about, I done got a little bit off track talking about my personal stuff. But when you're good at making things happen, you're going to get asked to make a lot of things happen. That's what Rhea says, and that's true. And I can validate that, again, using myself as an example throughout my career, my 20-year manufacturing career from 1988 to 2008. I was good at making things happen. It didn't matter what it was. When I was an entry-level operator, guess what I made happen? Production. I made a really high production. I made stuff happen. Meaning I got the work done. So I made stuff happen. I made the boss look good because I was putting up good productivity numbers. But when you make a lot of things happen, you're going to get asked to make a lot of things happen. And see, low impact people, they for whatever reason, it's their mindset. I mean, I know what it is. It's their mindset. They shy away from that. A lot of people even tell you, don't do too good a job, they're going to ask you to do something else. That's one of the most stupidest things that I've heard in my life. I just got to be straight, blunt about it. That's stupid. Somebody saying that, they're not going to become highly effective. They're not going to become highly valuable. They're not going to become highly sought after. Now, if you don't want to be any of those things I just described, it ain't stupid. You just do a mediocre job and you ain't going to get asked to do much. And you can just coast through life. But that's probably not you. If it was you saying that and thinking that, you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast. I ain't the coast through life kind of guy. I want to make things happen. But I remember hearing that throughout my career. I still hear people saying that. They kind of say it in a joke. You know, I don't do too much around here. I ought to figure it out. If you do too much, you get asked to do more. Yep. You get asked to do more. And when you do more, you get more experience. And when you get more experience, you get paid more. When you get paid more, your life gets better. And I ain't saying pay is the only thing, but pay is the way you get rewarded for making things happen on a consistent and regular basis. But when you get asked to make other things happen, you're being given an opportunity to learn some new stuff, to prove you're valuable at another level, to prove you can do more. So that's a good thing when you're growing and going. But when you're trying to lead yourself well, you got to be careful because you might get sidetracked. Someone might want you to go make things happen in an area that you really don't want to be in. You're not really interested in it. Yes, you can go make something happen in that area. And I got an example about that too. Near the end of my career, it's the reason that I resigned in 2008 after 20 years in manufacturing and started my own consulting company is because of what I'm talking to you about right here. You got to learn to say no. I was a lean manufacturing manager in a plant. And I had a high degree of competency around process improvement. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. And the plant manager and the director, his boss, and the VP, all those folks, they were They were wanting to shape me into becoming a plant manager. Nothing wrong with that from their frame of reference. I was a great candidate. But guess what? I didn't want to do that. And by that time, I knew that. And guess what? I was not going to do that. I don't care how much money they might say that it paid or that I think that it paid, no matter how much control and power I would get. I had no interest in that. But by that time, I had figured it out. And that's when I resigned. They want to make me a quality manager, preparing me to become the plant manager. So I was already the lean manager. They moved me into the quality manager's position. I'd already told them I didn't want to do it, and did it anyway. My greatest boss, the best leader I've ever reported to, he made that decision, and that's a decision he had to make. He was the plant manager. He had to utilize the people he had in the best possible way. And if I'm on the team, that's where he needed me to be. He needed me to be playing that position. I needed to be lean manager and quality manager in his eyes. In my eyes, I wasn't interested in quality, and I had made it clear. And they did it anyway. So I did what I had to do. I said no. I did it for 4 months, though, while I was preparing to leave. I think I've shared that story before, so I ain't going to go into it. It fits in a lot of different places. There's a lot of lessons in that story. But see, by me saying no to that, that's when I started my own business. 4 months later, I actually turned in my resignation. I did it. I did a job for 4 months, done it well, and he loved the job I was doing. The team got better. Our results got better. Everything got better because he knew what I was talking about a minute ago. He knew I was a make it happen guy. He knew if I got in that position, I was going to make it happen. I was going to build a better team, and I was going to get better results, and I was going to turn things around. That's exactly what happened. And I knew I could do that too. I just didn't want to do that because I was figuring out the stuff that Rhea and I are teaching you through her series, her through her content, and me through sharing thoughts about her content. I knew I could make it happen. He knew I could make it happen. That's why he picked me. That's why they wanted me to be a plant manager in the future. That's the kind of guy you want at the top, leading a plant, guy who's going to make it happen. And the team that I inherited in the quality manager role, they were not doing well. But guess what? I've also learned this too. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders. As soon as they had a good leader, they became a great team. That's how simple it is. But I didn't want to do it, so I turned in my resignation. But see, saying no to the wrong things, which that job, being in that job was the wrong thing. But saying no to that thing allowed me to say yes to the thing that quadrupled my income within like just a year. And I got to stay in the lane that I wanted to be in. See what I'm talking about? When you learn to say no to the wrong things, it creates the space to say yes to the right things. Now I had to do all the work to create the business, to start the business, to be capable of being in that business, to be able to go get results for my consulting clients. And I was booked solid for 4 years straight. And I probably could have stayed booked solid, except for eventually me doing that became the thing I need to say no to. I had to fire my boss. And guess who my boss was? Me. I had to say, I don't want to do process improvement consulting anymore. And I let all my contracts run out. Went to $0 a year. First thing I did when I wanted to do that, quadrupled my income. That would not have happened. Probably if I'd have stayed working there, and that was in 2008. Probably if I still was working in that same company all these years later, I probably still wouldn't have quadrupled my income. But because I said no to the wrong thing, I was able to say yes to the right thing. And within a year, I had quadrupled my income. That's just a monetary example. But the primary example was I got to keep doing what I wanted to do instead of having to do something somebody else wanted me to do. But again, that goes back to your character components. A lot of people don't have the character to do what I did, to make the sacrifices I had to make. They don't have the character to go from making a full salary with full benefits and all that kind of stuff to go to zero. They ain't got the character to go make it happen. And I did that in the middle of the Great Recession in 2008, when everybody was losing jobs and the stock market was tanking and all that craziness was going on. That's when I quadrupled my income, by living a lot of these principles that I've already been teaching you. And then when we actually get into step 4 and 5 on this ladder of influence, I'll kind of get into more of when I actually stopped doing the continuous improvement, process improvement. But that's another phase. Right now, I'm talking about when I actually started doing that in my own business. And I'm just using that as an example. Lots of examples. But if you aren't willing to tell people no, you'll find yourself spending more time on other people's projects or priorities than your own. And that's another great quote from Rhea as we talk about climbing to the 3rd step, which is competency development. And you got to remember what I'm talking to you about, this principle of learning to say no so that you got the space to say yes. It applies to a lot of different things in life. That's a principle. But I'm talking about it relative to developing your competency in your area of strength. That's the context right now. But I'll show you how that principle works real quick since I brought that up. It could be in your personal life. Let's say you're single. You dating the wrong person. That means you haven't said no to the wrong person because you're dating them. If you were not dating them, you would have already said no and you'd be single and not dating anyone. But I just said you're single, dating the wrong person. And now the right person comes by. You may not ever even know the right person came by because you tangled up with the wrong person. So until you say no to the wrong person, you ain't created the space in your life to say yes to the right person. You may say, yeah, but I could stop seeing this person and start seeing that person because I really ain't interested in this person. Yeah, you could if you knew the other person was there and they were interested in you. But if you had dinner in one restaurant with the wrong person and some other events going on somewhere else that you ain't even a part of, that maybe you would be at if you were not at dinner with the wrong person, then you might have met the right person. Then when you met the right person, you would have the space to say yes to that right person. So I ain't going to get tangled up in that. I just want to show you how that's a principle. It applies in all different kinds of areas in your life. And Rhea says there are 3 key questions you must ask and answer to begin mastering the 3rd step and significantly increasing your influence at this level. Remember, we're on part 2 of this 3rd step. Part 5 of the 3rd step is actually going to be mastering the 3rd step. But she's getting you warmed up here with these questions. So I want to talk about these 3 questions that she's talking about that's going to significantly increase your influence at this level. But you got to begin asking and answering these questions to just begin the process of mastering the 3rd step. So the first question is the principle question. And she says, the question is this: what must I do? She says this question prompts you to examine the tasks, projects, and things on your to-do list and remove what is unnecessary relative to your roles and responsibilities in life and or your leadership roles. She says, for example, if you chose to have children several years ago, you now have a role as a parent and a responsibility to those children. You can't simply get rid of them. Sometimes you might want to, but it ain't gonna happen like that. If you're a normal, decent parent, there's some parents who obviously go drop their kid off someplace, never see them again, and we ain't talking about those folks. You just simply can't get rid of them. Or if you choose to work at an organization, you'll have certain job-related responsibilities. And if you want to keep your job, you must do what's required of you to fulfill your part of the employment agreement. Of course, and I talked about it earlier, you must do what you have to do. relative to what the boss says you got to do. Just like when my boss wanted me to become the quality manager. I didn't quit for 4 months, so guess what I had to do for 4 months? I had to be the quality manager. But I knew that. I chose to do that while I was preparing. I went and hired a career consultant, and they helped me develop myself, prepare to move out of that position. I paid them $5,000 back in 2008 to do that. And I told my boss I was doing that. So he knew I had went and paid $5,000 to get somebody to help me leave. So he knew I was leaving, but he was still hoping I wasn't leaving. So if you need some help, Ria's got a great book called Prime Time, The Power of Effective Planning. And that book's kind of dedicated to that topic. If you need some help in that area, trying to figure out how to prioritize your life and your responsibilities. Some people would call it a time management book, but you can't manage time. You can only lead yourself well or poorly within time. Time just is. Time is going to pass whether you managing time or not. It's passing. You ain't got nothing to do with it. Time's passing. Now, what all happens within that time is not time management, as everybody calls it. It's personal management and personal leadership. What are you going to do within that time? You ain't managing time. That's a wrong statement. But she's talking about values-based living and what people call time management principles. But again, you ain't managing time. You can't stop time. You can't speed it up. You can't slow it down. It just is. What you can do is learn to be highly effective as time passes. That's called personal leadership, personal management. A little bit about the second question. It's the passion question, Ria calls it. So the first one was the principal question, what must I do? The second one is the passion question, what do I love to do? And this one may be easier to answer. What are you driven to do? What do you want to do? Like me, in my story, I wanted to be the process improvement guy. I didn't want to be the quality management guy. But later, 4 years after that, I didn't want to be the process improvement guy. I wanted to be the personal growth and leadership development guy. Because I was becoming passionate about leading people, helping people lead themselves well. It's all I do today. I can't see that I'll ever change that, but it could happen. But I stepped out of the process improvement role as a consultant in 2012. So now I'm 13 years into this, and I don't see anything changing. Again, I'm 17 years into reading about it and studying about it every day. But what are the activities that bring you the most joy when you do them? You know, what makes you happy? What gets you energy up? What gets you fired up to do? What do you love doing so much that you'd be happy to do it for free? Guess what? I'm doing it right now for free. I'm sharing personal growth and leadership development insights with you for free. I'm on episode 449, which means I've already done 448 episodes for free. That's a lot. That's a lot of hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours of free content. You know why? Because I love doing it. I love doing it so much I do it for free. It's why I give people my phone number and tell them to call me. My cell phone, 334-728-4143. Call me. Maybe you don't really have a question, but you'd like me to do a podcast about something that interests you relative to personal growth or leadership development. Call me and tell me that, or text me. Text me and say, hey, I wish you'd do a podcast on so-and-so. I don't know when it'll come out, because right now I got another half of this book left to go. I got 15 more weeks of doing this book before I'm going to be finished with this. I still make a note of it, and I still get it on the lineup. But I speak to people for free all the time. Another question. These are questions Ria's asking in the book relative to the main question. What do I love to do? She says, what keeps you thinking instead of sleeping? What do you dream of doing that you're actually capable of doing? That's another key component. A lot of people dream of doing things that they can't do. What's funny, though, is they're not being intentional about learning how to do those things. They could be. They could be self-developing. Whatever that means, you got to go figure it out. If there's something you're passionate about doing and want to do it, guess what you got to get? You got to get good at doing it. Or either you got to have a lot of money in the bank where you can do it for free the rest of your life. Most people are not in that category. Rhea goes on to ask, what gives you satisfaction? What are the problems in the world that break your heart? What bothers you that you want to do something about? Like Rhea, she does a lot of speaking for free relative to people who have been sex trafficked. As I record this podcast, that's what she's doing at this very moment. I'm recording this podcast about 1 p.m. on a Monday. Whenever we're home, like we are today, she's usually up in the Atlanta area speaking to a group of teenage girls who've been rescued from sex trafficking. She's been doing it 5 or 6 years now, hundreds of hours. She's paying her own, gas money. She ain't getting paid to go do that. She goes up there and spends a couple hours with these young girls. But what are the problems in the world that break your heart? For her, that's one of the problems. These young girls being rescued from sex trafficking, and they ain't getting any of this kind of development. They need it. She knows they need it because she's been in that spot. Her father abused her horrifically from age 12 to 19. And in those later years, he sex trafficked her. He trafficked her to others for sex. Unbelievable. You want to learn a little bit about her journey? Go to riastory.com, riastory.com, and look up the menu button TEDx, TEDx, and watch her 7-minute video, and you'll understand a little bit about her passion. The video you'll actually see was in Delaware. She went and participated in that TEDx event. We paid all her expenses and mine to fly with her so she could go do it. She did it for free. She made the video for free. She had an opportunity to get on that stage and have that cool video made. She invested in herself because she's passionate about it. It gives her satisfaction. If you could do only one thing in life, what would it be? She goes on to ask. If you could only help one person in life, who would it be? And she says the answer to these questions will help you to define and refine your passion, which will help lead you to your purpose. The third question, Rhea says, is the purpose question. And the question is, what should I do? So the principal question, what must I do? The passion question, what do I love to do? The purpose question, what should I do? She says this question prompts you to focus on developing competencies specifically related to your purpose. You got to figure that out. You got to develop yourself. I hope you get the book and dive into this stuff more intentionally and methodically than just listening to the podcast. Or even better, go through the video course at the Blue Collar Leadership Academy. BlueCollarLeadershipAcademy.com. Look for the ladder of influence. Invest in yourself, $99. That's nothing in the big picture, but it can launch you like a rocket to go through this content. And you may be inspired after you go through it to go through some others. I guarantee you, if you go for an interview and you got 3 or 4 certificates of completion through personal growth and leadership development courses, you're gonna stand out like nobody's standing out in that process. And if you don't do it, you're gonna look like everybody else in the process. That's how simple it is for you to know. Closing quote for today. Nothing builds self-esteem and self-confidence like accomplishment. Those words come from Thomas Carlyle. Nothing builds self-esteem and self-confidence like accomplishment. In other words, go make something happen. You want to build your self-esteem and self-confidence? Go make something happen. All right. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.